Do you know someone who's never satisfied? Have you found yourself trying to accomplish something for so long, and then when you finally do, you have this empty feeling inside? I have a unique solution. Today we're talking about authenticity. Hi there, and welcome to the Booksters Club, where we find daily inspiration from the books you love. Today we're talking about authenticity, and today's featured book is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and today's inspirational thought comes to us on page number 46. It says, "The ego identifies with having, but its satisfaction in having is a relatively shallow and short-lived one. Concealed within it remains a deep-seated sense of dissatisfaction, of incompleteness, of not enough. I don't have enough yet, by which the ego really means I am not enough.
Yet.
As we have seen, having the concept of ownership is a fiction created by the ego to give itself solidity and permanency and make itself stand out, make itself special. Since you cannot find yourself through having, however, there is another more powerful drive underneath it that pertains to the structure of the ego, the need for more, which we could also call wanting. No ego can last for long without the need for more. Therefore, wanting keeps the ego alive much more than having. The ego wants to want more than it wants to have. And so, the shallow satisfaction of having is also replaced by more wanting. This is the psychological need for more. That is to say, more things to identify with. It's an addictive need, not an authentic one. The opposite of authenticity is self-importance, and I couldn't think of a better word to define self-importance than the ego. That's what the ego does. It's just self-importance. And so the more that you build up the ego, or that side of you, that self-importance, that outside shell of yourself, the more that you build that up, the further and further away you get from your soul, your authenticity, your true self, your deep-seated self. And it's interesting that authenticity is something that we all really try to have and try to get in touch with. And we know that that is where we're actually living from our truth. We're living from what and where we want to be. And there are plenty of people, myself included, where I was so far from myself. I had no idea who I was, what I wanted, what made me happy. I just didn't know anymore. And that person isn't always like driving a fancy car and, you know, on like yachts and stuff like that. That's not always an egotistical person. That person is someone who's just living outside themselves. And you know, I will say that I was a stay-at-home mom, and I definitely was not driving no yacht, no fancy car, but I was living for a lot of outside self-important needs, to be a good mom, to be a homemaker, to whatever you can identify with underneath the sun. That is the ego. The ego is nothing but identity. And when you strongly identify with something, you know, your job or whatever it may be, it's not to say that you cannot still engage in those things and still be very much, you know, the CEO of a company, a mom, a person at your church that helps out, or, you know, whatever the identity may be. It's just that when you over-identify with those things, then you are nothing else but those things. That is where you have to be careful, because once that gets taken away, you've completely lost yourself. You have no idea who you are anymore. That's a really good indication too. If you did lose your job and now you're like, you know, I hope this doesn't date the video, but right now we're all under quarantine, and so a lot of people are looking at their roles right now in life. They've kind of gotten flipped on their head, and I'm not who I used to be. You know, maybe I'm not the breadwinner anymore. Whatever the role may be, I feel like the whole world is kind of getting flipped on their head and having to look at themselves without the security blanket of the identity that they've created for themselves. And if you've bolstered that up, and if you've built that up and spent years and years and years building up that identity or that ego side of yourself, you are far from your authentic self. It's okay. This is a call to yourself. This is a call to figure out who you are and get in touch with who that is. It is your soul self, your deep-seated self. That is where you're going to find self enjoyment and fulfillment that is much stronger and long-lasting than anything that the ego can offer us. The ego isn't a bad thing. It's not something that we should deny in ourselves. You do need it in life, and there are opportunities where you should use your ego. But when it comes to being in the driver's seat of what makes you happy and who you are as a person, that's not it. If you had a different take on this part of the book, a different part in this book, or a different book entirely that you think should be featured here on the Booksters Club, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for clicking the like button if you liked it, and subscribe if you're new, because I post new videos every single day. See you tomorrow, Booksters.